Live with Miami's Community News, South Florida's #1 source for local stories. I'm Michael Miller, bringing people together and sharing the voices, events, and connections that shape our community. Hey, thanks for joining us. This is Michael Miller. We have Rabbi Yossi Harlig here and David Magnusson, former police officer for 37 years, including 2 stints as chief of police. And Rabbi Yossi Harlig is with the Chabad of Kendall and Pinecrest, as well as the Friendship Circle and the Mitzvah Kitchen. But today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, including anti-Semitism, but bigger picture to bring light into focus here. You're here to talk about Hanukkah and to light these candles.
Great. Yeah, so today is the 3rd day of Hanukkah. Tonight we light the 4th candle. And Hanukkah is one of the most beautiful holidays because it symbolizes, which we'll talk a little more in the show, bringing light in the place of darkness, winning the war, but more importantly than winning the war, it's bringing people together to bring goodness and kindness and tradition to the world. So we will light the menorah here on the show. Have you done this before on the show?
First time right here with Rabbi Yossi Harlig. Mark this day down here.
Okay, can I stand
true.
up? Or yeah, let's see it. And Baruch atah Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner Hanukkah. Baruch atah Elokeinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoseinu bayamim hahem b'zman hazeh. You know, this candle I'm holding now, the white one, is called the shamish. The shamish is the one that actually, I gotta light it up, that lights the other candles. And you notice it goes above it. And the reason is this serves the other candles, and it teaches us in life that when you serve other people, it elevates you too. And it makes you even higher. That's what Hanukkah is about, bringing the light and illuminating the world through goodness and kindness and our Jewish tradition. Yes.
Shemesh is sun in Hebrew too, right?
The Shamish and Shemesh.
Shemesh, okay.
The Shemesh is sun, yeah.
Okay.
So even with this desire and these prayers that are thousands of years old, we have so much hate and so much anti-Semitism. I'm going to start off, I want to make sure I got this figure right. 2.4% of the U.S. population accounts for roughly 65 to 70% of all religious-based hate crimes. How is that possible, that there is so much anger and hate and frustration about the tiniest part of the population that happen to be, those are attacks on Jews, whether it was physical attacks or vandalism or murders, assassinations?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is an obsession that's going on for thousands of years. I mean, the story of Hanukkah, what we're celebrating right now with the menorah, is a holiday where the Syrian Greeks wanted to wipe out the Jewish people, and because what we stood for, and this is something that's going on for thousands of years of anti-Semitism. And it comes from a place of, it depends who. There's a segment of the population that are ignorant. They get the leaders to tell them all the problems that we have as the Jews. If we get rid of the Jews, life will be better. The people that are running those movements have, hate, because we have a mission in the world to bring goodness and kindness, and they can't stand that. And they see, pick what happened, in Sydney just this Sunday night. What was it? 2,000 people got together to celebrate Hanukkah, celebrate their tradition with their family, having a great Sunday, bringing light and goodness and kindness to the world. These terrorists can't take it. They can't see hate when they see people who are standing for God, standing for a greater cause, standing for light over darkness. And this is something that, throughout our generation, when certain people in leadership or terrorists or these movements, when they see that, they say, we got to do everything we can to stop it.
So, David, 37 years in law enforcement.
Yeah.
So you're acutely aware of these numbers are, whether it's anti-Semitism or all the other crimes that are going on. So talk a little bit about when you were on the job for all these years and thinking back, you also happen to be Jewish. And what was like for you being out on the streets, and how do we interpret this?
Well, as far as me being Jewish, in the areas I work, narcotics, robbery, on patrol, Overtown, Liberty City, the majority of my career, I didn't run into any sort of anti-Semitism. But I want to make a correction here. Anti-Semitism to me is it's too pristine a word. Let's call it for what it is. It's Jew hatred, hatred for Jews. And I'm going to take a little tougher tone because I think the time is now. The time is right that those that are victims of racism, of prejudice, and I'll speak as a Jew for anti-Semitism, they need to stand up and fight back. Okay, I think you keep backing up. Ultimately, you're going to end up with your heel against a cliff, and you're going to go over. What's going on is nothing new, as the Rabbi alluded to. Convenient stereotypes. Okay, you go back in history. There've always been stereotypes. It's a very small majority of the American population, but it's easy enough to be picked on. Okay, there's a kindness to Judaism. There's a kindness to the Jewish people. I would also say there needs to be, with capital letters in bold face, enough. This needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. And you say, well, are you advocating violence? No, I'm advocating standing up for myself and fighting back. I just saw what happened on the subway the other day in New York City.
Yeah, some of these
You got two thugs. Now, let me tell you something. If all those people on the train, and a lot of them were...
I don't know if they know the story. I know the story.
Were Hasidic. If they all decided to gang up on these two thugs, they could have thrown them off the train onto the tracks if they wanted to. And that's what should have happened. All right? You're backing up, you're backing away. And I, for one, say, no, enough of this. The hatred is just off the chain. We use anti-Semite. People don't even know what a Semite is. We need to call it what it is. It's Jew hatred.
So how is it a 20-year-old kid or a 50-year-old father, mother, whatever? Are we saying that is continued, that they learned it from their other group of people and from their ancestors, and it's traveled all the centuries?
Yes.
Like, that is just unfathomable.
So,
doesn't it get diluted? It's
brainwashing. It's brainwashing for a variety of reasons, whether it's religious, whether it's something. It's brainwashing. It's constant. It's unfortunate, but it's what it is.
One of the shocks, we go back to October, 2 points I want to make. You go back October 7th, we're not shocked. We are not shocked that, we're shocked of October 7th that they could pull it off, but we're not shocked that they wanted to pull it off. What surprised the Jewish world and the world in general is October 8th and 9th. Right away, people got up to demonstrate against Israel. And Israel didn't even have a chance to respond. We didn't realize, we were sleeping at the wheel, that for 20, 30 years, they were indoctrinating the professors and the students in college campuses. As soon as it happened, they jumped up and they right away started demonstrating against the Jewish people. And I agree with you 1,000%. It's not anti-Semitism, just hating Jews. And don't kid yourself, we're not against Jews, we're only against Israel. On the other hand, I saw it was very interesting this Sunday. We were concerned that people are not going to show up because all Hanukkah events are outdoors. So no one's going to show up. So first of all, we're blessed. Where I am, I'm with Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office and Homeland Security. They came right away out in full force to protect the Jewish community. But we had twice as many people show up, more than they reserved, more than reservations. And the reason is I feel now, like you said, enough is enough. The Jewish community, the Jewish world feels we need to not back down. On the contrary, we need to stand up and be even stronger, proud as Jews. We have to have even greater Jewish identity, not hiding a Jewish identity. But the other thing I want to add is I have colleagues who are Chabad rabbis in Australia. The government in Australia has allowed this to fester because for them, they need the votes. And if you follow a little bit the politics there, the rhetorics and to say things, and it doesn't go far from saying things to actually doing things. And when you don't take seriously what people say, very quickly it could turn to what people do. And we as a community, as the world, have to stand up to it and say, we're not going to accept this.
So when you were walking in 2024, walking down the street near your home and near the Chabad, somebody rolled down their window and they yelled something at you. What was that?
I was walking home with my son from shul and someone
How old is he?
My son at that time was 12. Shot us, go back to the gas chambers on Killian. on 112th Street. Now, I can tell you most of my encounters have been positive, so I'm not saying this goes on all the time. But for us, we have to remember that we cannot hide anymore. We have to be strong with our Jewish identity and speak up and stand up and be strong with our Jewish tradition to show them. They went to Bondi Beach to stop Hanukkah. You know, October 7th, they try to stop Simchas Torah.
Right.
And October now they try to stop Hanukkah. But if you look around, and I know in Florida, people are saying there's been a greater participation. So whatever they're trying to do, they're not going to be successful.
So what did your 12-year-old say to you when he heard what they said, or did he?
You know, unfortunately, he's already exposed to the reality. You know, the kids are so exposed. They know with social media. So he knows, but he was shaken up. And he said, wow, can't believe he said that. You know, kids today's days are already exposed and know what's going on out there.
So to you, David, when people, you know, with these, you mentioned we've sort of anticipated or accepted they're hated. But is that sort of being sort of like just being reluctant to say and do? And what is it that some people can do when they hear somebody say something that's, if you will, being hateful to Jews?
Let me go back when we came down from New York City, just to tell you the exposure. It was a place, there was a couple motels right on the beach, 73rd and Collins, because, you know, all New York South, they all moved down to Miami Beach, you know, all of us, right? And so we're with kids walking around, 10 years old, and one of the Olsen Hotel, 73rd and Collins. No colored, no dogs, no Jews.
And you remember that?
I remember that. Did I take offense? No, my thing is, you know, go F yourself, go screw yourself, whatever you want to say. I mean, PG rated TV, but what can somebody do? I mean, if you're hearing somebody, I'm not a black man. I know, you know, I've worked the community, African community, my entire career. I will stand up if I hear somebody attacking somebody because of color. I will stand up with them and fight with them. Or if they're attacking gays, I will stand up. I will stand up. That's me. You know, I can't stand bullies. I don't like hatred. And I want to talk to another point. You know, if you get some high roller goes down to I don't know, Brickell somewhere with a nice Rolex and he gets rolled. He goes back home, tells the neighborhood, hey, I got rolled, I got robbed. He's not going to wear that Rolex anymore. He's not going to be so flashy. And the neighborhood say, I'm sorry it happened. You have a burglary in the neighborhood. Right? And people, now they're a little bit more concerned. Oh, wow, you got burglary. Yeah. Well, let me see what I can do. We can change the lights, cut down the hedges, right? You know, do what we can to keep from being victimized. But if you're attacked because you're a Jew or because you're black, there's nothing you can do to keep that from happening again. And for the neighborhood, there's nothing you can do to keep that from happening again. The Patriot Front, they put stuff in people's mailboxes basically saying, I know where you live. It's the shock value of hatred. I have taught law enforcement, I've taught hate crimes, violent extremism, anti-Semitism. That's what I do. And I'm telling you, it's ugly, but people need to stand up. I'm going to stand up for people that are getting bullied. Like I said, I'm not black, but I'm standing right next to my black brothers and sisters if I see that going down. I hope by the same token, if a Jew's getting picked on, or I'm getting picked on because I'm a Jew, not talking about a regular fight, you know, guy on guy, I'm talking about because I'm a Jew, I hope there's other people that are going to stand by me as well, because if not, this whole world's going to hell in a handbasket, because it's only going to get worse. Hatred is more contagious than the measles, and doesn't seem to be any vaccine of a good vaccine to stop it right now.
Rabbi, I've never seen you almost speechless. So speak what's on your mind.
I was listening to what he was saying, how we as a society, how there's so much hate, and you have to stand up and say something about it, because if not, see, people who want to do bad things, they watch. Look what happened to Hitler. Why did Hitler come up? And I'm going to a real dark place, right? To the worst places. Why did Hitler come up with the final solution? He saw that the rest of the world wasn't accepting the Jews. Originally, Hitler's plan was just to clean out his part of the world, that the Jews shouldn't be there because we are whatever he says we are. What happened? Then he realized nobody cares about the Jews. If nobody cares about the Jews, let's all go and wipe them out completely. That's what come with the final solution. And then there's a great line. First they came for the Jews, someone said, and then I didn't say anything because I wasn't Jewish. Then they came for this, and they came for that. And I agree with you so on point. That is, as a society, if you sit back and say, well, it's not my problem because I'm not Jewish, or they don't know that I'm Jewish, then it's not. Really, as a society, we have a responsibility for each other and for the world. And if you look at the countries that they allow this to fester, it's not doing great, those countries themselves. And that's when the world doesn't stand up together and not only just say it, but actually do something about it. Unfortunately, this will continue. And that's something that we have to be very focused on to make sure it doesn't stop. And that's why, we as a community, some said, maybe you shouldn't do this, maybe you shouldn't do that, to hide your identity. I said, no, that's ain't happening by me.
So how long has there been a connection between African Americans or blacks and Jews? Because even when the sign you saw, right, is referenced there. How long has that been the symbiosis that's there?
Oh, it's been for a long time. But you look back to the 60s, look back to the civil rights movement, look back to Dr. King and rabbis marching together. Hatred is hatred is hatred. I hate the Jews, but I don't hate them. Well, you better be careful of that person, because if he has enough to hate one group of people, darn well he doesn't have to go that far to hate another group and another group, or she for that matter. I don't mean to just say he. And now what you're finding is there's more younger and younger people, probably because of social media, that are, you think it's the older people that have the hatred and anti-Semitism. You're finding out, no, it's not. It's the younger people now. And you don't have to look any further than what happened on those campuses last year where Jewish students were being maligned. And that goes back to what I'm saying. It's unfortunate that there wasn't a group of some tough Jewish men that escorted these kids on campus somehow and made sure that they got where they needed to go.
You're very passionate about this.
I'm passionate about not taking crap from people. Okay, I'm sorry. I stood up for people my whole career, my whole life, even before I was a cop. I don't like bullies. And when you add bullying, and there's bullies that aren't hateful, anti-black, anti-Jew, what have you. There's bullies like that. But when you add that component of hatred because of a certain group of people, it makes my blood boil, because they're cowards, because they are never by themselves. It's always a group, and always when they have the numbers advantage. I would just like to see what happens when the number advantage goes the other way and people say enough. And it should be coming.
Rabbi, last year, Farrah Sachs did we did interviews with 7 Holocaust survivors. I was never so moved when they sat here. They're all 90 to 100. And one gentleman, he rolled up his jacket and he sat there the whole time with his number. And listening to them and their entire lives, all right, from that experience, and trying to push the bad guys away. It seems like we've come a long way, but the reality is the last couple of years have been pretty terrible as far as attacks on Jews, not necessarily besides assaulting them, but when somebody does the swastika, wherever it is, that's attacks on Jews.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because of social media and TikTok and all that, we didn't realize, or people sleeping at the wheel, how they're indoctrinating that society, and people watching those videos, buy into it and they start believing it. And this is a big issue that we have to figure out how to combat and do it. So listen, I have a role as a rabbi, and you have a role as with the police, is to, first of all, give strength and comfort to the Jewish community, and give them confidence and blessings that they should want to continue coming around and have a strong Jewish identity. We also run programs for the non-Jewish community, and we've had a lot of success in them realizing that the Jewish people are something so special. I gave a invocation a few months ago at the Miami-Dade commissioners. They had one of the meetings, and over there I saw Jewish people. I think they have Jews Against Genocide at the meeting, and I did not realize before I came that they were going to be there. And later on, I spoke about it. I did a post on social media that I was speaking to a father when I went to visit Israel, who lost a child in Gaza, not as a hostage. He went into Gaza, and he lost his life. And he said when he reads there's a genocide in Gaza, it eats him up. He said, because if there was a real genocide, my son wouldn't be dead. We'd be shooting missiles from the planes and just wiping out the place. And to see people repeating this lie, and people buy into it, it's really something that's very painful to watch. That, on the contrary, not only it's not a genocide, we're losing lives because we were so concerned about the genocide. But we have a responsibility to stand up and say that what they're saying is incorrect, and defending the Jewish people and defending what Israel does. Of course, we all make mistakes and we're not perfect, but I think it's a great responsibility for us to do that.
Well, what Goebbels said, tell a lie enough times, people start believing it. The minister of propaganda. And that was Reverend Niemuller, who he came for the unionists, they came for the communists, they came for and when they came for me, there was nobody left to stand up for it. And that's true. I mean, you got to stand for something, or you're going to fall for everything. And here we are.
When you look at the countries that allowed certain elements in that they're not, forget about the Jew, besides the Jewish people, they're not doing great in general in this society right now because allowing it. And our country has to do the same thing. You got to keep an eye on who are the people, what they stand for, and if they're going to say it, they mean it.
So with all this hate, when the tiniest part of the population, when I see some of these shows that, and when you're discovering your roots, and somebody says, "Oh, I'm part Jewish," right? With glee, they're happy. I don't see anybody go, "Oh, you know." So I'm trying to understand both those things, where the people I speak to speak fondly of people they know that are Jewish, and it's consistent in the crowd that I hang around with. I never hear that. I've never thought I've been discriminated against, except for one time at a restaurant. I sat there for 30 minutes. I said, "They're discriminating against me." No, it wasn't that. They didn't serve breakfast over there. They thought I was waiting for someone. But it was a terrible feeling when I was there, thinking that somebody was doing something, against me. So how do we, these young people, whatever age that is, they're learning part of this. And when they become teenagers, when I'm sort of gathering here, they're already well in. If they're going to hate, they're well into that. So what do we do as parents and aunts and uncles so that when we look to the young ones, that we can open their eyes to the world, and so they have more love in their heart than anger?
I think we have just like what they do is feeding false information about, what Jews stand for, what good people stand for, what America stands. Not just the Jews, what America stands for. We have we have our work cut out to continuously educate the next generation through their means, through their social media, to expose them as much as we can to that. And then, it's funny, we're both sitting here, we have different roles. I'm a rabbi, you work with the police. Police's role is to make sure, get bad guys off the street, close down websites that are spreading hate and lies. And I'm, as a rabbi, have responsibility to, for the Jewish community and the Jewish world, to inspire them to continue being proud Jews and continue to do what Hanukkah is about, keep the light burning, but also reaching out to community leaders and teaching them about what Jewish people stand for and what we are really all about. And we each have to do our role that we're responsible. But the police also have to be there, making sure to get the bad people off the street or following them.
About 20 years ago, I got a phone call from a local government official. "Michael, they're going after Jewish-owned businesses. Be careful." Yeah, I went. And me, being the innocent, naive one, go, "What did I ever do to any of those people?" And when you start thinking about that, it wasn't anything that I did in particular, anything that you're doing in particular. So you get categorized as a bad person. It sort of spooked me, that I got that phone call. I was like, wow, the awareness of it is unsettling. So here we are. 2025 is about gone. Got another week or two. The rates of anti-Semitism are way up. I think it's a little less in 2024, but it's still a monstrous amount of numbers. And so David wants
the amount of anti-Semitic incidents from 23 and 24 is more than the previous 8 years combined. So we know what accelerated that, obviously, was what happened on October 7th. But, it's climbing. You would like to see a graph where it's dropping. That's not the case.
And it seemed to me, I remember years ago, I don't know how many it was, it's like, oh, it's sort of settling. And then all of a sudden this new thing popped up where the Jews were, again, being attacked more. So when you see somebody putting swastikas around, what is that? How do you look at it, and what does it do for you?
You know what it represents. You know what message he's trying to convey. You know what he's hoping to cause from them. So for me in general, when I see anti-Semitism, I double down being more Jewish and more openly Jewish. Obviously, I'm a rabbi. I can double down being more Jewish, but more inspiring people. See, you understand, one of the things we learn, and the Lubavitch Rebbe always teach us, is you don't ask why it happened, is what am I going to do about it? Why it happened, why did the first night of Hanukkah happen? Because there's a father and son that is inspired by ISIS. But what are we going to do about it? And like the rabbi that was murdered, he was all about bringing light and inspiring the community. Their whole goal is to get us to go away, to wipe us out and get rid of us and stop what we do in this world. And my whole goal is to do the opposite, is to bring light and kindness and be even more focused on being Jewish and being a rabbi and a leader in the community. At the same time, talking to the police make sure you don't accept people standing right in front of a synagogue because of with their signs, back to the gas chambers. We got to do things about it.
And this is not
there is a difference between a hate crime and a bias incident. You do have First Amendment rights. I know for many times I had to be on the line there where people pull permits and they were very distasteful, either anti-Black or anti-Jewish. Certain church groups, I'm not going to mention names now, but all law enforcement, we know who they are.
We're off the record now.
And never off the record. And it just cuts against the grain of what humanity should be, you see.
And this is not a gun control issue.
No, I didn't say anything with guns. I'm talking about standing out there with signs and
Yes.
stuff. Now, it's not a crime. I mean, obviously, police want to know who these people are, and most agencies, you will make a report for a hate biased incident, which doesn't rise to the level of a hate crime, because if somebody's going to stand there or start screaming racial epithets or Jew hating epithets on a street corner, it's not going to end there. It's just not going to end there, because normal people don't do that, right? You're filled with so much hate that you want to do that. They should be kept an eye upon, because it's only going to get worse. You go to Pittsburgh, 2018, the Tree of Life Synagogue, and all what he was writing in his dossier and going live and screw your optics, I'm going in, as he went in there and started massacring Jews. I mean, this is the world we're living in. And, as a historian, I always say what keeps me up at night is the December 6th and the September 10th, because you don't know what tomorrow's bringing.
So, Rabbi, tell us about 2026 and Chabad and the effort to reduce the amount of anti-Semitism.
Listen, I like I said before, you see this. Let's take this week as an example, and hopefully it's going to continue that way. You saw on one hand the death and destruction that happened in Bondi Beach, but on the other hand, you saw the wake-up call to the Jewish world. If that hunting is down because we're Jewish, what does it mean to be a Jew? And again, from a police chief's perspective, he has responsibility and not to only listen to what the rabbi's saying, light over darkness, all these beautiful concepts he agrees with. But we have a job to get the bad people off the street, and we got to keep an eye on them. That if they would have stopped in Australia, which they were investigating, these two people, then 15 people's lives would have been saved. But I also see a very strong Jewish awakening and wanting to be connected and being very connected to the Jewish roots, and we hope and pray. None of us know what next year is going to be. That the Jewish person shouldn't only get connected to Judaism because of anti-Semitism. It should be because of also good things that are going on. And we hope and pray that that these stories is a wake-up call to the world. That if we stay silent, not only is it going to affect the Jewish people, it's going to affect all of us. And we have a responsibility, a moral obligation to be a protector of our people. I always say, God doesn't need me to be his representative. God wants me to be a representative of his people, of his children. That's our responsibility. We have to continuously be out there and making a difference. It's interesting. There's two miracles of Hanukkah. And I'm not going to test you, even though you're Jewish, you should know. What's the two miracles of Hanukkah? One is the oil lasted 8 days instead of one. And the other one won the war. Now, if I had to pick the big thing to make a big deal about, you'd say the big deal should be that we won the war. We were a very small nation, and we were able to beat the Syrian Greeks. Why we make a big deal about the oil? The answer is, as Jewish people, even if we win the war, we don't sit and celebrate and make parties about it. At the end, there's still death. Even though, like, Israel is never going to celebrate all the terrorists that we killed. Like, we're going to make a holiday of the day we killed terrorists. Of course, we have to do it. But we don't celebrate. We celebrate light. We celebrate goodness. We celebrate kindness. We celebrate those kind of things we celebrate. We don't celebrate death and destruction. And that's a great message for Hanukkah. We have to continuously being a light into the nation and doing good work, kind work. And you do that at your show.
Yeah, there's something very spiritual about watching a candle and being really absorbed into it. You just go, oh my goodness. And so we know.
So when someone dies, you light a candle for that reason, because it's a very spiritual thing. Yeah.
And one candle at a time put together and illuminates the room and the world.
And you realize there's 8 of them, because we all have different personalities, but each one brings a light to the table. And we need all the candles.
We're going to wrap it up, sir.
I mean, positivity is the key. Listening, it's inspiring. And you don't have to be a Jew to hear this message and be inspired. I think every group should be proud of who they are and share their greatness with others. Maybe I'm living in a fantasy world, but there's so much to learn from other people. And why the hate? Why the hate? Why the bullying? And I'll go back to my original thing. It needs to stop. By some shape or form, it needs to stop.
I want to share a story with you. I think you'll appreciate. I may have shared this story with you in the past. We had a vandalism on our campus when we were doing construction. Someone came in to cut all our wires. And they cut the wires we're running the old low voltage, which caused damage that we had to rewire the building. And there was boxes of wires on the side. Right away, I thought it's anti-Semitism. Like, why wouldn't you take the boxes of wires? Why are you cutting the wire? So I have a friend, the major, he told me, Rabbi, not always thieves are that smart. But anyway, we weren't sure if it was anti-Semitism in the beginning. So we have a family that is, kids come to our program for special needs. They're not Jewish. She's Catholic. She calls me up. She was raised in middle America. I said, I want to meet you. I said, okay, come. I said, I've never been involved in an organization that I felt personally of anti-Semitism, because at that point we weren't sure what happened. To me, a Jew being picked on because he's a Jew, a person, it's not part of my world. I grew up in middle America. She asked me, how much money is the damage? I said, I have insurance, more than likely I can get it covered, but it'll take us a few months. I said, but right now the damage is at least $250,000. The next day she walks with a check of $250,000 and says, the Jewish community has done so much for me. I've never been on the other side of what it means attack because of who you are. I want to give a little bit of light in a place that's dark. So you get to see these beautiful stories.
And speaking of beautiful stories, the Mitzvah Kitchen, people can go on to your website, see all the great work that you're doing there.
Just made over 12,000 meals. We had a go on to the website, mitzvahkitchen.org. You can sign up for our next events.
Really extraordinary. Congratulations on that. And we know you're very excited about it. We know that your wife is the boss, all right? And David knows that after today's session, all right? So again, congratulations on that and the Friendship Circle for serving the kids and the families that needed so much here in South Florida.
And then tonight we're going to be at the Fall Shopping Center, light the menorah with elected officials, heavy police presence, but we're going to continue marching on, 100%, yes.
Right. Rabbi, happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah to everyone.
David, same to you.
Thankfully, there's a lot more good people in the world than there are bad.
100%. Right. I was thinking about that point. Yep. Because even in Australia and other places, most people are good people. We're not, but unfortunately, when you allow the bad to fester, that's what happens.
All right, you're going to take us out. You're going to look. What camera do you want them to look in? That one right over there. So you're going to sign us out. Go.
Yes, we're right now the 3rd day of Hanukkah. Today we're starting the 4th. Every day of Hanukkah we add another candle, because the light of first day you need to add more the second day, and the same thing all in our personal life. Every day we got to add a little extra kindness and goodness in our life, and as long as we're always improving and getting a step ahead, we know that we're fulfilling our mission. Like you said before, it's not just a message for Jewish people, it's a message for all humanity. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. Bye now. Gentlemen.